And thank you for starting your day with Papa Sunnyman and the Breeze Radio. Live here in the studio with me, you do have former City Councilman Harold Doucette. It's your city. Good morning, Councilman.
Good morning, Papa Sunnyman, and everybody here in the city of Port Arthur. Today, with It's Your City, the topic we're going to have today is the city manager of Port Arthur being terminated or resigning, stepping down, and we have so many different versions of it here. But it has created quite a topic for conversation here in the city. And a lot of individuals feel that the time was short. He didn't have time to establish his programs and get things going in the way he wanted. And others feel that the city had not progressed or showed no signs of changing. Well, today what we want to do here on the It's Your City is take a look at some of the things that we know to be facts and some of the things that we could elaborate on or talk about, and let you get your own opinion on whether he should have been asked to step down or whether he should have continued and be given more time. First, let's talk about the city managers. You know, city manager has duties and responsibilities, you know, and the problem that most citizens have is that a lot of time we have an idea of what someone do or what they're supposed to do, but we have an idea. We really don't know. And a lot of what we think or how we feel is based on what we know or what we feel we know. And in that time, you start having a lot of varying opinions. The city manager in a form of government that we have here in the city of Port Arthur is the top positions. You know, that position of city manager is one that you cannot have an individual who doesn't have a strong sense of leadership and management skills as opposed to just worrying about budgets and coming in and answering phones and taking care of business. You know, in our form of government, he has to be a decision maker. Having served on council for 2 years is one thing that I found out. Without a strong city manager, you know, we have a serious problem with that. And before we go any further, I'd just like to remind you that all of the views and opinion expressed on the radio station by myself, any guest, or anyone calling in is strictly the opinion of the individuals and does not solely reflect the opinion of the management of the radio station. Here on the Breeze, KSAP 96.9, and if you feel like commenting on the subject of the city manager resigning, feel free to call in at area code 409-982 and 0247. Now back to what I was speaking about as a past council member here on the council. I have a little bit of knowledge of the hiring of this particular city manager because I was on council and was one of the individuals who was in favor of hiring him. The first thing I like to say about hiring an individual, and I think what most people should understand is, when you hire someone, you're looking at a resume or an application, and then you interview. You talk to the individual face to face. A lot of time what you have to do is you have to determine, one, from the question asked, does this particular person have the ability or shows the potentials to be able to do the job for which is needed done? Coming into the city of Port Arthur, we had just had a study done by the Mercer Group in which they went through the whole city, and they gave recommendations from their findings on areas that the city needed to improve in. And based on that report, when the council started its search, we thought we had two things going for us in the search. One was the fact that the firm that was doing the search was actually the firm that did the study. So the firm should have been very aware of what our needs were. They knew the makeup of the city, they knew the council, they knew the council conflicts and bickering, they knew the problems. So their search was to find someone and refer to us for consideration that can help us in those areas. Upon doing the interview, when we did the interview, a lot of the questions that were asked of all applicants were questions that were centered around the city's need. The council, by far, the majority knew that personnel was a key concern of ours as council members because of some of the problems we have experienced in the way of our trash not being picked up, the buses. We've had a lot of problems occur that we felt they were not exactly responsibilities of the city manager alone, but some of the staff and department head must understand their job and their responsibilities and stay on top of it and keep the city manager informed so that the city manager can also inform the council. So when things don't go right for citizens, when citizens are not receiving the service that they want, the first person the citizens want to contact is the council members. That is the key, the council member. So a council member gets a good idea on what is a problem for citizens for which they were elected to represent and be the voice for. So they hear all of the conflicts. Council members normally, when they have a complaint or concern, they normally talk with staff and express those complaints and complaints and concerns to the staff. If the staff doesn't respond, then that council member then goes to the city manager. If the city manager listens to the council member and works with the staff, the city manager has the authority to make a decision on whatever the issue is or whatever the issue may be. That decision is his and his alone. So what you have to understand is the city manager in our form of government runs this city and has total control of all staff. One of the responsibilities and duties delegated or given to the city manager through the charter is that he does all the hiring and firing of all city employees. There's only 4 people that he does not control the hiring or firing of, and that's your city secretary, your city attorney, and your municipal judge. Those individuals there are appointees. Your appointees are appointed by council. So, if you are not receiving service, the person that can make that happen is the city manager. If there's a problem within the city, the guy that makes it happen is the city manager. The city manager has that sole responsibility. That's a lot of responsibility. However, the people that makes it work is his staff. He has to be able to observe and know that the staff are doing what they need to do. Without that staff, then the city manager is left out in the cold. He definitely can't do the work himself. So it's his responsibility to ensure that he has the proper staff in order to support him in ensuring that the city is run on a day-to-day basis. All routine matters are strictly the decision of the city manager. The council at various times will give him directives, certain tasks that they feel is important and they wish to see that accomplished, in which they will give him a directive or just instruct him, or they will authorize him to do certain things that's not in the day-to-day routine. So knowing this responsibility and the type of person you have to have in order to perform this duty, when hiring someone, you ask the type questions, you listen to the answer, and you select someone you feel is going to do that job. Now, everybody says, what if the person did this before on another job? Will they do the same on this job? In some cases, you'll find a person has a pattern. The way they perform one job, when they get on another job, they'll perform the same way. But then there's instances whereby what occurred on one job, there may be factors that doesn't necessarily mean that this will occur on this job. And an example of that, you know, everyone knows by now that the Seattle Supersonic, the Seattle Seahawks, thank you, David. The Seattle Seahawks is now the Super Bowl champions. Well, the coach of the Seattle Seahawks, Pete Carroll, he was a college coach. Then he went to professional football. He said he coached 2 different teams. And the teams he coached had losing records. And that looked like a pattern. He coached in college and real successful. He go to pros and he coached 2 different teams and they had losing records. He goes back to college and start coaching again, successful in college. The Seahawks manager, general manager and owner says, okay, we'll try this guy again. They bring him back up and he coaches the Seattle Seahawks. And lo and behold, he turns the team around. And within 2 years, they're Super Bowl champions. So sometimes knowing what happened on a previous job may impact on the person you hire, but sometimes it's just the opposite. It's all up to the individual given the opportunity. And in this particular case, we did a thorough job of interviews. The council asked the right questions. council made sure each applicant and candidate for a city manager understood what he or she was fixing to undertake if they were selected. They were well informed. We selected and hired Mr. Johnson. Now, what a lot of the citizens, I feel right now, don't understand is what took place during the hiring. Well, during the hiring is when the council let the new city manager understand. We know your day-to-day operations. We know you can manage a city. You've done that already. But here's what we want you to set as a priority. Personnel, streets, water, and sewage. We want you, city manager, to set this as your priority. Understanding very clearly what council's desires were. This was in July 2012. So everyone understands the duties. He also understands, along with these duties, this is what they're asking me to do as a priority, and this is the most important aspect of this job. This is what the city needs, and this is what I should put my emphasis on. So with that understood, we go to work. While the city manager performs his daily duties and responsibilities and the city is being run, there are certain things that are occurring and council members are watching and council members are involved. Council members see, council members hear, council member gets word from citizens, interacting with the staff, interacting with the city manager. Everybody's gone about their daily duties. At some point in time, someone has to evaluate. And at the 8-month period, the city manager was brought in and we went over an evaluation. And during the evaluation, one of the things that we've put a lot of emphasis on, and I say we because I was present at that time, was personnel. And the reason council felt strong about personnel, because the complaints that we receive, if we have the right people on the staff and employed, then those problems won't be occurring. So it's all about getting the right people in the right places and recognizing those who are not doing the job and replacing them. And that was a key ingredient when we hired him and during the 8 months. So you evaluate. After that evaluation, council then scheduled a workshop. Council conducted a workshop, and it's on video. You can go back and see the workshop itself. But at that workshop, council once again felt the need to reiterate on the priorities for the city manager. Not only did they go back and go over them, but they set them in an order of priority and every time. And the key thing that you have to understand is when you set these priorities, is anything being done to indicate or say that I understand, I got you. So that's what, at that time, council got a little bit more specific because they didn't feel that we was actually getting these priorities done are we moving forward with them? Now, how long should it take someone to do personnel, get our streets fixed, our water lines, and our sewage line? Well, let's talk personnel. Personnel should not be that difficult of a task because the city has a hiring policy and procedure. So if you go through your policy and procedure, that should not be a problem. And if you want to have an idea of what I feel the council members today look at when they look at that particular area is the fact that you have water utilities director. The water utilities director here in the city retired in July, and he was hired as a contract individual working so many hours a week or so many days a week, and he was hired through the end of December. Well, we're now into February, and that water utilities position has not been filled. That position is over water. We losing millions of dollars every year in water utilities. If we lose $1 million a year in water utilities, do you as a citizen feel that that is an important position? If you're losing millions of dollars in water utilities a year, do you feel having that position vacant going on 8 months is acceptable? You have to ask yourself. Because if something is wrong with the water and we go to ball water, or if we don't turn in reports and we get fined, what are your feelings going to be? Should we have been more abreast? Should we have taken more emphasis on making sure that we put somebody in this position, we hire somebody? And when you say hire, you don't want to go out there and just grab the first person come. But at the same time, when you start talking 8 months, you as citizens have to ask yourself, losing millions of dollars in this city, should we leave that position open going on 8 months? The Public Works Director, that's the person that oversees the trash, the garbage, the water, and all your public utilities. Public Works Director, he left in November. It is now February and we still haven't had anyone to fill that position. That's another key position. So you ask yourself, when we have key positions, why can't we fill them? Then you turn around and you talk park and recreations. Upon hiring the current city managers, one of the priorities that council reiterated and said numerous times, questioned during numerous times, was we need a park and recreation director. Dr. Thigpen trying to do human relations and park and recreation. That's what the Mercer report also stated. But we really didn't need the Mercer report. You could just look at the parks and come to the conclusion that there was not enough attention being paid to our public parks, the city parks. So, you ask yourself, if a person you hire, you tell him the first day that you want him to hire a supervisor to oversee your parks. Now, how important are the parks? That is what constitutes our citizen quality of life. That is what helps and is directed toward the citizens' quality of life. That is what citizens use to entertain or have fun, but it's dealing with quality of life. 18 months later, more than 18 months later, the position is still not filled. So when you're told coming into a job that personnel is an issue, and you have all these vacancies, key vacancies, top level jobs being vacant, and there are other positions that are vacant, that hasn't been filled. You ask yourself, when the city and citizens complain about industry not hiring Port Arthur residents, well, your tax dollars have been budgeted to pay employees to work in this city to serve you. The money is there, but the body is not. The city is just as guilty for contributing to unemployment as anyone else. We should understand that if it's one thing we have to understand is, if we have the money allocated, budgeted, we need to fill the positions because we can put somebody to work. And putting somebody to work is what this city needs in order to reduce the unemployment rate. So the personnel issue, given those directives, understanding the status of personnel, you have to make the determination on whether the city manager had enough time in a year and a half to get the Human Relations Department up to the task of understanding the need and a sense of urgency for hiring people here in our city in order to provide the service to our citizens. You have to make that decision. Because if you go back to the interview of the final two individuals which we videoed, when asked that question of the two candidates, because personnel was a key, one of the candidates said it'd take me about 9 months to a year to evaluate the staff. Mr. Johnson said it will take him 90 days. If you go back to the video, he says, I will evaluate the staff in 90 days. Those that can do the job, those that can't do the job, will be asked to seek employment elsewhere. Now, those are his words. So if we are concerned with personnel and you're interviewing two candidates and one candidate says, well, I'll take about 9 months. The other candidate saying, I'm going to do it in 90 days. I'll evaluate whether they can do the job or not. Those who do the job, stay. Those who can't do the job, go. So you have to understand what was expected of the city manager when hiring and personnel, and after 18 months in that particular area, what has been done to say, I didn't get it all done yet, but I'm doing something? Or is it in the same shape it was prior to him taking over, or is it worse? If you look at it and you know, we have more key vacancies now than we had when he came on board. And with that, we're going to take a break, and once again, you listen to The Breeze, KSAP 96.9 on the FM. If you choose to comment, call it. If you choose to call and comment on it, feel free to do so on area code 409-982-0247, and we're gonna take a 2-minute break. We'll be back. You're back with the Breeze, and it's your city. Harold Doucette hosting it, and we left off, we were talking about the city manager. We're going to some of the areas in which I feel was causes for the actions that were taken by council, but at the same time, just giving you, the citizens, some background on it so that you could come up to your own conclusion yourself. Because, like I said, it's easier to assume that it's not right or is right without understanding some of the background and some of the other things that took place. We talked about personnel, and I think personnel was a key in this particular case. And for some reason, citizens need to understand, you know, all the services and what everybody do here in the city of Port Arthur is all for citizens. You know, we're here to provide services to citizens, and we as citizens should always expect to provide the service for which we pay, and the service for which we truly deserve as being citizens in the city. And in doing so, we need to make sure that the people that are responsible for doing that, that we hold them accountable. And holding them accountable doesn't mean that, you know, well, you know, he's a good person and, you know, he's nice. Good and nice has nothing to do with it. You know, it's all about doing the job. Because if the person doesn't do the job, you know, you will complain. And when you talk about the situation with the water, you know, 2 years ago, we're still losing as much water as we were losing behind the city manager. And what it entails is, does it take 18 months to have a plan in which you somehow or another find a method or decide which method you're going to test to see where your greatest leaks are? A plan on what actions I could take to reduce a bulk of the leaks by replacing lines. Some type of strategy. If I do this section, that'll take care of 40% of the leak, and it only costs this amount of money, and we could do this within 2 years. It's all about a plan. So if a city manager is given that task by council, given the condition of the water lines in the city of Port Arthur, no one expects that to happen in 3 years. Those lines are not going to all be replaced in those 3, 4, 5 years. Probably going to take longer than that. But you have to have a plan in which to start so that you can reach the end. But if you continuously doing the same thing that you did previously, wait till someone calls for a leak and go and fix it, you're not going to make any headway. You're not attacking the problem. Who's responsible for this plan? Who's responsible for ensuring that there's a plan and it's going to be executed? Once again, the city manager. The city manager was given the responsibility to fix streets. And streets is like water. No one expected to be done in 1, 2, 3 years. But everyone expected a plan. And that plan would have let people, not only the council know, not only the people that work streets know what they're going to be doing, but it let the citizens have an idea on a time frame in which streets will be fixed in their areas, you know. And knowing is better than not knowing. So all that's needed and required was a plan. If you want to have an idea on how that was managed, there was a council meeting probably about 7 months ago in which streets were discussed, and we were pretty adamant about making an impact. You'll find that the city manager told council that he will bring council a plan where there will be picture of every street in Port Arthur that needs to be fixed, repaired, or resurfaced, a list of the priorities, which ones go first, and that's what will be done in 6 months. Council never received it. So when you ask your council member when they're going to fix your street, if you complain that you tearing up your front end driving around town and these streets are not fixed, the person that was given the directive to come up with a plan and start doing that and make it a priority was the city manager. And after 18 months, have you noticed the difference in the streets that you can say that was taken to heart by the manager when given those directives and priorities to the council, from the council rather? So you have to judge for yourself on whether or not things will get done, things were done, or was there a plan to do these things. And I can tell you, those 3 things have been a priority given to the city manager on several occasions. And council was always also told that the city manager would bring us a plan or some options for funding, either bond or a low interest loan or some type of funding so that we could get a chunk of this done. That's never appeared. So you have to ask yourself, if you were a council member and you constantly gave your city manager directives, and after a year and a half you had not received anything or seen or been shown something to say that yes, this is going to happen, do you feel that you would want to retain or terminate your city manager? You have to really get a feel for the whole picture. You know, no one said that selecting Mr. Johnson was a mistake by council. That's not even a thought, for the simple reason nobody can tell what someone will do until they are given the opportunity to do it. You can have an idea, but once again, that's speculation. You don't know until someone is given a job. Once that person is given a job, then the next question is, how well are they doing it? How well are they doing it? And in some cases, you may say, yeah, not the best, but it shows some potential getting there. Yeah, we could wait a little while longer. Or you could say, it ain't getting better. Well, given the facts and knowing what transpired, you know, we all could come to our own conclusions. But I noticed from listening to conversations, I hear some are in favor, some are not. A lot of individuals not in favor because they like Mr. Johnston. He's a great guy. Well, that works two ways. Sometimes you're a great guy because you really don't hold people accountable. You know? And everybody likes you. But the job doesn't require liking. It's not, you wasn't chosen for popularity. You chose to get a job done. And in some cases, there are some that feel he should give him more time because of the state of the city. Well, no matter who comes in, no one is ever going to change the street situation, the sewage and the water situation. I grant you 5 years at the least. It's going to take more than that to fix our problems here in Port Arthur. But one has got to show a plan, because with a plan you can do that. You know, the citizens have to understand, in the state of your city, you have to rely heavily on the city manager, because our form of government puts our whole city into the hands of the city manager. We talk about the council directing the city manager and giving him authorizations and telling him that he needs to set this as a priority. Council does that. But what council don't do, they don't supervise him. That's on a day-to-day basis. Therefore, he runs the city on a day-to-day basis, making all routine decisions on his own. So to go and tell the city manager, I want you to fix that road right here, city manager. It is solely his decision. He makes his decision, and council has to accept his decision on routine decisions. Now, if you don't like it, then council will be able to terminate. However, his decisions are final. So that's how important it is with him. And when you start talking about the manager's authority, his authority is like a board of directors, which we could say council is, and him being the president of this company. He runs the company, and the board directs and gives him guidance. But the running of the company is left over to the president. Well, the council oversees, advises, and directs and authorizes the city manager, but they don't run the city. The city manager runs the city. So when you're complaining to your council member, understand he can relay that message to the manager, but it's the manager's decision on what he will do and what he won't do. And if the council member has a problem with that, they can always address it before a full council, in which the full council can take it under consideration and address the issue with the manager. However, the manager has this authority. Some people say a year and a half is too short of a time. Well, sometimes it doesn't take a year and a half for you to evaluate the direction the person is going, in respect to what you gave as priorities. So whether the time was too short or too long, I don't have the answer, but I can tell you it all depends on what council feels was accomplished in respect of what they gave him. You know, if I had stayed on council the whole time, I could tell you specifically what I base my decision on. But since I wasn't there this last 8 months, 6, 7, 8 months, I really can't tell you. I can only tell you things that I know, and I can tell you how the government is formed and how the government works. And having been here in the city during the time when we had Fitzgibbons as our city manager, and he stayed here for 15 years, I can tell you that that city council has an inherent responsibility to all of us citizens, that they select a person to manage our city, provide our service, and ensure that the health and welfare of our citizens' needs are being met. They have that responsibility. I feel because of the way it works in all walks of life, the council cannot have a person to give them a piece of paper to read, then ask them questions and says, that's the right guy. That is not the answer. But if they select a person and they find that that person is not the person, it's best to terminate it then and move on and get another. Because if you're doing business that way, one thing you can rest assured, that eventually you'll have a city manager that comes in and start turning this city around. And believe me, a new city manager that's been in the city for a year, you will definitely know difference in services. You will definitely be able to see changes. No, I didn't say all of this is going to turn overnight. But after a year, you will see changes. You will be able to say, oh, that's the city manager. You will know this person because that person will be into this city. This person will hold people accountable. This person will make the decisions, and this person will not worry about politics. Now, can the city manager always satisfy every council member? No. Will every council member always be a fan of the city manager? No. So, what is the best way for the city manager to survive under those conditions? Simple. Do your job. If he does his job, he can withstand the politics. He can withstand the criticism, because without a supermajority, I can tell you, no council will go after no city manager, because when you're hiring a city manager, it's a serious undertaking. And if you have to terminate one, there's a lot of discussions and a lot of time and consideration went into that, because they know that now we're going to go back and we're going to have this period of time where we won't have a city manager. We have an interim city manager. We have to go through a search. It's going to cost money. But if it's to get the right person, it's worth the money. It's worth the money. And if a person comes in and they stay a year and a half and they don't do the job, somebody say, well, I heard this statement. I heard this statement in the media. Well, this guy's staying a year and a half. He's going to make it hard for somebody else to come down and want the job. Well, guess what? What it's going to do is going to tell the next person coming down here for the job that I better start doing something and show them that I'm listening and I'm going to move this city forward, or guess what? I won't be here long. So there's also the advantage of understanding whether a person is meeting the demands if a person is holding people accountable and if a person is doing the job. It had nothing to do with like and dislike. It had nothing to do with a person being a careless, unconcerned, not caring person. It all boils down to getting the job done. Either you do it or you don't, and if you don't, let's get somebody that can. What is the time frame for that? You have to know all of these different scenarios that we talked about this morning. You know, what was said, what was supposed to happen, did it happen? If we know all of these scenarios, and we got them all, trust me, I bet you we all be on the same sheet of music. And like everyone says, you know, we all have to make up our own mind, but it was sort of interesting, some of the different remarks that I've heard with whether the time frame was too short, was it given a fair chance, and this person probably wanted to get rid of him. But trust me, if a city manager stays out of politics and does his job, more than likely he'll be in the city for as long as he wants, because the council won't have no reason to want to terminate him or have him step down. And when you have all of your council members present at a meeting vote the same for something of this nature, trust me, you know, it sort of makes you wonder, because we don't well, this council doesn't always agree with all when it comes to issues that may be controversial, or issues that someone may think different about. But I guess one of the things that I, as a citizen now, being a former council member, is glad to see that the council did make this decision without being a we and they vote. That means that they were in unison with this, and they agreed that this is the route they want to take. I felt good that they were able to do that, because it lets me know that if they did that for an important matter like this, it gives me an indication that they were thinking along the same line, and makes me understand that a lot of consideration was given and they had some basis for their actions. The last thing that I was impressed with is the fact that they would make a decision of this nature, which shows that they understand the key issues here in our cities, and they're willing to make sure that they get done. And in order to do that, they got to make sure that they have the right person. So, given some of the information today on duties and responsibilities and understanding our form of government, the city manager is the man. So he assumes responsibility for all that is done and all that is not done. And as the old saying goes, the buck stopped there. And whether it was too short, too long, whether they're right or wrong, only those who have all the facts and all the background information to this will know whether this is the right decision. Arthur, what we need to do now is hope that we could get the city manager selected in a short period of time, come on board, and be able to address our needs here in our city in order to make it the best that it possibly be. Once again, you're listening to The Breeze, KSAP 96.9 on the radio dial with Harold Doucette, and it's your city. Until Monday, have a good weekend.
You have just heard the broadcast of your week.